This computer. Hi, welcome. This is our webinar on Singapore math. My name is Jessica Cifuentes. I am the Assistant Director at Arizona Learning Communities, and we are really an organization that wants to make home education simple. And one of those ways is to give you guys information on different resources and curriculum out there. We have a bunch of other services from field trips all the way to online classes to in-person enrichment. But with us today is Sarah Cade from Singapore Math. And she's going to go ahead and tell us a little bit about the curriculum, break down the unique Singapore approach, and tell us a little bit about dimensions and some of the other things that they offer at Singapore Math. So I hope that you enjoy. Buckle up. I'm sure you're in for a lot of information, and let's see if this is a good fit for your kiddo.
Awesome. Thanks, Jessica. Well, like Jessica said, my name is Sarah, and I'm here to share some information about Singapore Math and what makes it unique and successful and all that fun stuff. So I have a slideshow to share with you guys, so I'll just go ahead and get rolling on my presentation here. So we are actually celebrating our 25-year anniversary as a company currently this year. And so about 25 years ago, we had brought the curriculum that was used in Singapore over here to the US because the method of teaching math over there had just proven to be very successful. And we really believe that everyone should have access to this effective teaching approach. So Singapore as a country consistently ranks top in the world among international math test scores. And you can see here on my screen how the US and how Singapore rank amongst one another. And what makes the Singapore math method so successful is that it focuses on mastery. And that mastery is achieved through the intentional sequencing of concepts. So instead of students pushing through, rote memorization, they instead learn how to think mathematically and develop a really strong number sense and a deep understanding of how math works. One thing I heard explained that I liked is American math teaches students how to follow a recipe, whereas Singapore math teaches students how to become chefs and understand the ingredients of how math works together. So I'll just kind of walk you through the different components here. And so within the approach, there's several different features that make it different from your typical curriculum here in the US. And one, it follows what we call the CPA approach, and that just stands for concrete, pictorial, and abstract. And I'll touch on that here in a minute. And then it also incorporates number bonds, bar modeling, and uses a lot of mental math. And so we'll go ahead and talk about these here. And so for the CPA approach, this is really how all the lessons are taught. So they start off in this concrete stage where students are interacting with the objects that represent the math problem. So it might be objects that are actually in the math problem. So for example, if the problem is about oranges, you might be working with oranges, or you could be working with manipulatives that represent those oranges, and then whether those are like linking cubes or counters or things like that. And then from there, they progress into the pictorial stage. And in that pictorial stage, that's when they're making that connection between the objects that they were just handling and now the imagery that's on the page. And so lastly, they progress into the abstract stage. And in that abstract stage, now they're actually using numbers and symbols to represent that math problem. So as you can see, there's just a really great flow where they're holding it in their hands, they're seeing it as a picture, and then they're using that understanding to step into the abstract. So it's really great because it touches on a lot of different learning styles and just really expands how the students think about the numbers. So that's kind of the intention there with that CPA approach. And so here's the other one that I mentioned just a moment ago. So number bonds, these are frequently used as a pictorial tool to help students visualize the part-whole relationship between the numbers. And then bar modeling is another really great tool because it really allows students to visualize what's going on in the problem. So, what are my knowns, what are my unknowns, and then how do I find those unknowns? And students are first introduced to bar modeling in the second grade, and then they use it throughout our whole program. And so as they progress in grades, the bar models become increasingly more complex, but at that point, the students really know how to use them and work with them and really just use them to their advantage, which they're a very unique and very cool little tool for the students to use. And then mental math is another really important component of the Singapore math approach. And there's actually a lot of different mental math strategies that are introduced to the students throughout our whole program. And this is just an example of one. I'll just walk you through it. So on the right side of my screen, you can see here that 46 is being broken apart into 1 and 45. So that's for students to just very easily in their head add 90, 91 to get 100, and then just tack on that 45 to get 145. And so these are just, like I said, all throughout our program. And what's really neat is this is really something that's helpful for students to have because it gives them confidence. And so when they see a math problem, they don't have to be afraid of it. They can approach it with confidence because they know how the numbers work together. They know they can break the numbers apart into manageable pieces and then add them all together, or manipulate them as needed. And so it's a great skill to have when you're a student, but it's also a great skill to have as an adult. You're out shopping and you have the ability to do math on the fly because you know how all the numbers work together. So that's that mental math piece. And so I'm just going to share just a few slides of what our customers are saying. And so a lot of happy faces, a diligent work happening here. And so these kids are all using our Dimensions math program. Very excited faces. Some more work here. You can read the little testimonials. What's really great is, there's anywhere you can do math, so on the table, on the floor, outside. You can really get creative with the manipulatives with what you're doing outside if you want. So if you wanted to use pine cones as counters or leaves or things like that, different colored leaves, there's so many different ways that you can get the students engaged and make it a little bit of a scavenger hunt and really get them excited about their math program. So that's what's really cool with that, with the program here. And so now I'll just kind of jump in to talk about Dimensions math. So we had created Dimensions math based on some feedback that we had from our users about our original programs that we brought over from Singapore. So they just wanted a series that had a lot more support and was a bit more robust and user-friendly in terms of simplified experience, but also great colors and design and things like that. So we got a team of Singapore math experts and teachers and trainers together to create Dimensions math based on all that feedback. So I'll kind of walk you through the next slide here, which is pricing. So anytime you're choosing a curriculum, that's something that you're, really wanting to know about is, hey, what does pricing look like? So we're kind of a unusual publisher in the sense that we just offer flat rate pricing for our books across the board. So if you're a homeschooler or if you're a really big district, everyone's paying the same flat rate price for the books. So the way that the books are is all of the books that the student use are $13.70 each. And then we have teachers' guides and then home instructors' guides and home instructor printouts. And so I'll talk about kind of the differences between those teachers' guides and home instructors' guides a little bit later here in the presentation, but we have those here. And so as you can see here, though, all of the books say A on them. And so the way our program is designed is it's broken out by semester. So all the books that say A on them are designed to be used in the fall semester, and then all of the books that say B on them are designed to be used in the spring semester. So that's kind of how that is broken out. And so like I mentioned, we have our textbooks, workbooks, tests, home instructors guides, and then our teachers guides as well. And so I'll just kind of walk you through some snippets here of our different books. And so this is just an example of one of our Dimensions math textbooks. And so the way that these go is each lesson follows what we call the think, learn, do format. And so if you remember back when I was talking about the CPA approach, this really follows that in the think, learn, do format. So the lesson will open with a think activity, which uses those everyday objects or manipulatives to get the students to think concretely about those concepts. And then from there, the lesson progresses into the learn portion. And that's when students are seeing that pictorial representation directly related to that concrete phase of the lesson. And then in the do section, that's when students start working on those problems and then looking at the different imagery that's on the page and using that abstract understanding to solve those problems. And then each textbook lesson has a corresponding workbook exercise. So if you see on the bottom right hand of my screen where that number 4 is next to that little pencil, that just shows you what that corresponding workbook lesson is. So we're going to go ahead and turn to that here. And so yeah, textbooks follow think, learn, do, and then workbooks follow what we call the basics practice challenge format. And the way that this is broken out is in the basics section, that's when students are touching on those key concepts that they just learned in the textbook lesson. And then in the practice section, that provides an opportunity for more practice, remediation, and it can also be used for assessment purposes as well. And then lastly, we have the challenge section. This section is really great if you have more advanced students and need to give them that extra push and that extra challenge to keep them engaged. I will say though that these challenge questions can get pretty hard, so don't be discouraged if you can't get those because they can get pretty challenging. But one thing that's really neato about these workbooks is that they are differentiated, and so the differentiation is really great because basically you're intended to assign the problems to the students based on a skill level. And so we recommend selecting about 5 good problems. So if your student has a little bit more struggle with math, do it at the earlier side of it. And then if they're, pretty good at math, then do it at the half end. And so, but again, about 5 good problems, because what you don't want to do is to have them do all the problems, because we don't want math to be something that's not, a good time. We want them to be that sweet spot of, I'm learning, I'm knowing how to do it, and then I'm confident in how to do it. So yeah, 5 good questions thereabouts. And so those are those workbooks. And then we also have our assessment books as well. These ones are optional, but they are really cool to have. These ones are also differentiated as well. So what's neat about these is at the end of each chapter, then you can give your students either the test A or the test B. And test A focuses on those key concepts that they just learned in the chapter, whereas test B is more application of those concepts, and it involves more analytical thinking and deeper problem solving. So you could give your student test A right after the chapter is done, for example, and then test B a little bit later on for more practice and more challenge. So again, these are really flexible in how you use them, and so it's just kind of up to your creativity on how you want to use those test books. And then next we have our teacher's guides and home instructor's guides. And so you don't need both of them. It's just kind of a selection of one or the other. And so it just depends on which one you want. I'll talk about the differences between the two. Kind of the main difference is the teacher's guides, the content in them is geared more for classrooms because the activities are like geared towards classrooms and in groups, versus the home instructor's guides, the activities are more one-on-one instruction. With that said, though, a lot of homeschool families use the teacher's guides because those ones are in full color, and the home instructor's guides are in black and white. So it just really kind of depends. I usually recommend going to our website and taking a look at the sample pages, and then seeing which one kind of fits your homeschool model better. But both are really, really great to use. So it's just kind of a matter of which one you like more. And then next we have our Dimensions Math at Home videos. These are super cool because they are available for grades 1 through 6, and it's just like having a teacher in your home. They're pre-recorded videos, but the teacher walks the students through the lesson in their textbook and workbook. So the student would just watch the video, follow along with their textbook and workbook, and then just have a really great learning experience. We actually have these on sale right now, so we're offering a 25% off discount through the end of the year. So December 31st, 2023. And so if you go to our website, singaporemath.com, you can purchase these through Vimeo. But I usually recommend checking out a sample chapter first. We have those on our website so you can view how the videos are formatted and see if it's a good fit for you. But we're getting a lot of positive feedback about these videos because parents just really like to have that extra support, and you can actually watch the videos with your students, so you guys can be learning together, which is really cool. So that's these Dimensions Math at Home videos. And next we have our scope and sequence. So this is again for our Dimensions Math program, and as you can see, it's just very intentionally designed. It has a really great flow in how these concepts are introduced to students. And so if you're interested in doing a kind of a deeper dive into the scope and sequence, we have that information available on our website at singaporemath.com as well. And so next, just kind of getting started. So, okay, cool, what's all this information? What do I do with it? And so for next steps, what we recommend is going to our website, singaporemath.com, and then picking a program. So visit our Which Program is Right for Me page. That's under the parent section of our website. And so that has a really handy breakdown of our programs. And then it also has some information from our curriculum advisor, Jenny, that says things like, hey, if your student is more, this way, I recommend this program. If your student is more, gifted in this way, I recommend this program, and so on and so forth. So that's a really helpful page just to decide on which program to use. And then from there, we have free placement tests on our website that you can download for free and then print them out and then give them to your student to see what grade they should be going into. These are really helpful. And then also there's a handy instructional information on that page on how to give the placement tests and grade them. So it's really great for identifying where there's any learning gaps as well. And then next, you'll want to purchase your materials once you've selected a program. And so you can do that on our website. We have the videos, like I said, the books. We have some supplementary titles as well that can go along with your program. And then we also have manipulatives as well. And manipulatives are just like, they're kind of like the toys that you play with. So the little like counters and weights and all those fun things. So we have those on our website as well. And lastly, we have our Get Connected Facebook group. So this is a really great spot just to really see what's going on in the Singapore math community. It's been, our Facebook group has been really growing, and so it's just a cool spot for people to share ideas and ask questions and just have that support of a community that's using the same program. So that's kind of the steps of getting started, and we have so much great content on our website, so you can get lost for a good while going to our website, singaporemath.com, and there's just so much cool information on there and videos and things like that to check out. So that is the end of my presentation. So I will turn it over. Jessica, I know you had a few questions, but if anyone else has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. I have personally used Singapore Math in the past, and it is really nice. It's not super distracting. The pages have images, but it's not overly cluttered. I did appreciate that, and it's very clear. I like how clear it is.
Thank you.
I did have a couple of questions. You did answer some of them, as I thought that you would. But one big question is, let's say somebody starts off in Singapore Math, or they have a 7th or 8th grader. Do you guys have any recommendations as to what to do after they finish like dimensions math? They go all the way through it. At that point, do you have any particular suggestions, or are they pretty much ready for whatever the next program is?
Really good question. Yeah, so our Dimensions Math program, I covered what I was showing today is our pre-K to 5 program, but we actually have Dimensions Math 6 through 8 as well. And 8 is the highest grade that we offer. And so after grade 8, students should be ready for either Algebra 2 or Geometry. So we recommend, funneling them into a traditional Geometry or Algebra 2 course at that time.
Okay, great. So there's that pre-K through 5, and then they have the middle school as well.
Yep, and the middle school kind of has a different look and feel in the design. And so we have a lot of information about we have a separate page just dedicated to our middle school stuff. So you can read about that, look at sample pages and check pricing and all that fun stuff on our website.
And I think I noticed it also has a video component, right? The middle school.
Yeah, so we offer the video for grade 6, and then there's actually another company called Singapore Math Live. They're separate from us, but they do have videos for 7 and 8. So there is video support available from grade 1 going all the way up to grade 8.
Okay, nice. And there is a sale right now, so that's super great. We did perfect timing that there's that 25% off sale right now.
For sure.
For some people that are trying to figure out which math curriculum that they want to use, can you explain is Singapore Math a spiral-based curriculum or mastery-based curriculum?
Really good question. It's kind of both. So I like to call it spiral to mastery. And so let me go back to, I'm going to go back to an earlier slide. And so you can see here in just different parts, it builds on itself. So it'll have something where it introduces a concept kind of at I don't want to say surface level, but kind of like that. So it'll give you an introduction to it, and the students will get that mastery of what it's introducing at that time. And then a little bit later on, when it's more age appropriate, then it'll introduce it again, but at a deeper level. And so it just keeps deepening as it goes. And so in that sense, it's kind of like a spiral, but it's also definitely mastery. So it's not going to be like a traditional spiral in the sense of like Saxon, for example. Like Saxon is a super heavy spiral program, whereas ours is much more mastery, but it does have an element of spiral. If you're looking for more of that spiral feeling or experience, what's really cool is you can still kind of do that with our program. So for example, those workbook problems, if you, for any problems that you didn't do before, you can always come back and do the other ones that you didn't do later. And so you can still keep using those. Same story with the test for the problems that you didn't do the first time around, you can go back and do those ones again. So you can, customize it in a way to make it more spiraling for your preference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for addressing that. So it's kind of a both and mastery meets spiral. I
Yeah.
noticed that there were some other supplementary things as well, for those kiddos that might need extra practice or extra challenge. Can you talk to anything in regards to, let's say somebody needs a little extra or remediation or challenge? What would you recommend for those students?
Yeah, really good question. So in our Dimensions Math guides, the home instructor guides and the teacher's guides, there's little tips kind of peppered throughout. So it'll say something like, if your student's struggling with this, like have them do this activity. And then if it'll say like, if your student is more advanced, have them do this, like it's a little bit, more challenging. So there's little things kind of peppered throughout that, which is really helpful to get them, just on track and really engaged. In terms of our supplementary titles, those ones are right now probably I would say more for advanced students. So we have what are called the extra practice books, challenging word problems books, and then intensive practice books. These are all what's called the from the primary mathematics series, but they can be used alongside Dimensions Math as well. So I recommend going to our website at singaporemath.com and clicking on our shop page, and you'll see where there's a supplementary section. And you can check out those books and look at sample pages and just read about how they're used. They're really great. I think though you'll find with Dimensions Math, it just has a lot of problems in it, so it kind of reduces the need to buy those supplementary books. But some people do like to have them anyway. I usually recommend doing a semester first with just Dimensions to see how it goes. And then if you find, I would really like some more supplementary books, then go ahead and purchase that for your spring semester. But I usually recommend just starting with the core and then seeing what you need after.
Yeah, having done something similar, it does, like with the textbook and the workbook, it does have a lot of variety of problems, and those
Yeah.
questions are challenging.
Right.
I was trying to figure some of them out too at times, but they're great. And word of encouragement, if you're debating whether to use this, the bar models at first they're a little hard to get used to, but later on I found myself even using them.
Yeah.
Own math, and I thought that's pretty interesting. The bar models are kind of really helpful visuals that I feel like is relatively distinct to Singapore math. Really helpful.
Yeah, I think a lot of times too, I just tell people like trust the process. Like you're going to want to fall back on your what you know with what you learned, like as an American. Like so, I have like all these things that I want to fall back on,
Mhm.
but you just got to trust the process and know that it's a successful program and the components work really well. You just have to be all in on it. And so and that's another thing. What's really great about those videos too is it's easy. It's much easier to be all in when you have like a little bit of hand holding, I guess I would say, with those videos and the instruction there.
Right. No, thank you. You address all my questions. I want to make sure that the people, anyone else didn't have any other questions. I will be posting this video on a blog on our website in case you missed the beginning of it. And we'll also send it out in our newsletter as well. So if anyone had any questions, please go ahead and just put it in the chat. Or you can unmute yourself if you had any questions. But Sarah did a great job of going through the entire Singapore math program and all of the different things that Dimensions offers. So we really appreciate you telling us a little bit about this program, and it's a great option for homeschooling parents that are looking for something that I think is pretty accessible for parents to be able to do. There's one question that I want to make sure that I get to here, Sarah.
Uh-huh.
So the question, this is actually a really good question, and I'm so glad that she asked this, is the math learning style closer to Common Core or kind of, I guess what you call maybe the old school style that maybe we were used to growing up, that kids in the 90s learned math? I would say maybe more traditional, I guess, algorithms or things like that. How would you kind of answer that in terms of the approach for Singapore math? Where does it kind of lie in terms of its approach?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, that's a good question. Probably neither. I would say so. It's not going to be what you learned before. So you got to kind of throw out what's your idea of what you learned before, because
Mm.
it's just completely different. So it's different in a good way though. So not I guess this is kind of an extreme example, but you have a horse and buggy and now you're going to a car, and so it's like, okay, how does this compare? Well, it's very different. It's still math, but it's very different, but in a very good way. In terms of the Common Core, it's not considered a Common Core program. Dimensions Math does meet the Common Core standards, but it does it in its own unique progression. And so, kind of peppered throughout the teacher's guides, it'll say like, if you need to meet a Common Core standard here, you can do this activity, or so on and so forth. And so we also have Common Core alignment information on our website. But it is its own thing. So I think if you kind of take a deep dive into it and look around sample pages and things like that, and there's also a ton of stuff on that Facebook page as well. So that might be a really good place to check out as well if you're new to Singapore math, because there's just so much to learn about it. But with that said, it shouldn't be something that's so different that it's daunting. Like Jessica said, it is something that's you can get into, so it's not not a gated thing or anything like that. You just have to be willing to say, hey, this is different, this is cool, this is different, let's check it out and get into it.
Yeah, maybe you could even go back a few slides where you actually had some pictures of the workbook to give a little bit of an idea of like what a
Yeah,
like workbook page would look like.
yeah, exactly.
I don't know if that's helpful at all for the people watching, but I think so. If I remember correctly, it covers all of the bases that you would need for like, if you had to cover standards, but it is a
Mm-hmm.
unique approach. It's not necessarily like something that you might find that's explicitly Common Core. I mean, they do teach standard algorithms as well. So if I remember,
Yeah,
teach you long division, like the concept behind breaking down each of the place values, and then it will also teach you kind of the standard algorithm as well, but trying to get that number sense before you jump into the algorithm. And if that's accurate, let me know, but if that's from my they do try to get that understanding of what's happening in the algorithm, and then they also still teach, like I would say, old school, like multiplication, long division, things like that as well. And you can
yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, that's very good. So so it is something that it's covering, the basics, but it's also just done in such a way that's very visual and hands-on, and not that rote memorization piece. It's a mastery piece. So it's giving the students the tools that they need to understand how the numbers work together. So even in these examples, you're seeing like little pictures and things like that. And so the students can associate those things with real world items and real world experiences, and then bring that into their math. And so I will say it is a really manipulative heavy program, because that's such an important piece of that concrete phase. And that's when the students are handling those objects that are in their hands, and just like really getting that understanding. Say, oh yeah, like, okay, I have these different Fruit Loop colors, and you can use cereal, things like that, and just really getting the students just engage in what they're learning, and it helps them to remember, because like, hey, remember that lesson that we used the Fruit Loops? Yeah, I remember. Okay, this is what we learned there. So just a really great way to remember things as well.
Yeah, and I would say it's also pretty strong with like the concept of the base 10, right? And thinking of in numbers in terms of groups of 10 and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Please let me know if there's any other questions, just like put them in the chat. Again, I will put this recording up online so that you can see the entirety of it and all the slides and everything. But you were super informative, Sarah. I know that the website is really accessible. I think, is it just singaporemath.com? Is it that
Yep.
easy? Yeah.
Yeah, it's super simple.
So singaporemath.com, if you want to look at any of the resources. We really appreciate you just sharing for the homeschool community and letting us have a little sneak peek into Singapore math.
Absolutely. Well, thank you as well. And thanks everyone for joining. And then, yeah, that Facebook group is great. If you do have other questions, you can also reach out to our customer support team. That's just customer service at singaporemath.com. They're also great at answering questions as well. They can hook you up with a curriculum advisor if you have, specific curriculum questions as well. So, but yeah, thanks again, Jessica, for the opportunity and for taking the time to let me share about our program. Really much appreciate it.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah. Have a great day, everyone.